Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Alan Graham from Counts Real Estate, and we're going to talk about title insurance. Welcome back to the show, Alan.
Hey, how you doing, Don?
Long time no see.
Yeah, that's true. Good to see you.
Yeah, it is good to see you. Title insurance, why is that so important?
You know, title insurance is a very important feature of a real estate transaction. Title insurance protects the buyer against any liens, encumbrances, or easements that might appear on the property. And I've got a great example of one that happened over at Martin Lake about 8 months ago. 1926, there was a public beach around Martin Lake, and a public rights-of-way were put down to the water for people to enjoy the water. Eventually, in 1940, those lots were sold off as residential lots. People paid cash for them and built houses on them. We got ready to sell the house to the next person, and all of a sudden, on the title, there was a cloud. And that cloud said that there's a public beach and a public access that runs right through the middle of your house.
And I guess that's a real estate term of art, a cloud.
A cloud on a title is something that does not give you clear title. There are certain exemptions that you'll see on your title insurance policy, and those are usually easements that occur for the utilities, for water, electricity, gas, cable, and they've got a defined easement on your property, but they're given an exception on the title policy. And so that title policy is an insurance policy against people having rights that are on your property. In the state of Florida, and in Northwest Florida specifically, the seller of the home usually is responsible for furnishing the title policy. And that's because we have the concept that a buyer should make sure that his property is free and clear of all encumbrances before he makes it marketable.
A seller, right?
Yeah, a seller. And so other places that could be different. So all of that's localized, but that's our custom up here, that a buyer, or excuse me, a seller will make sure that he's got a clear title before he sells it, and he pays for the title policy.
So if you say live on the Gulf or a waterfront property, there's probably an easement along the beach as well that allows public access.
That's right, and if you live on the Gulf, more than likely the state owns most of the beach out in front of you. They came back, and when they started renourishing the beaches years ago, the state basically owns from what they call a coastal setback line. And that coastal setback line was designed to prevent any construction beyond a certain point that the state deemed unsafe for construction to be done.
This just happened recently. There was a fella on my front lawn painting lines across my front lawn. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, well, we got to mark the power lines. And he's like, right through my property, which, you know, it's not hurting anything, but apparently he was from the water company and had to identify where, before they dig, they've got to identify where all the power lines are and all that stuff.
Right, and most people are under the misconception that they own all the way to the road pavement. And that's not true. Their property line usually falls back about 25 or 30 feet outside the pavement, but their yard grows up to the pavement. And so when there's when they have to call a 1-800 number to do we call a dig ticket, we have to do that when we put our real estate signs up to make sure that we don't dig into utilities, gas, especially the new cables that Comcast and WOW use for their high-speed internet. You break one of those, and that's very expensive, and so they usually get real good, solid rights-of-way permission.
And people get annoyed. Now, what about subterranean rights? What if I strike oil on my property? Do I own that oil, or can someone else own the rights to underneath my property?
You know, each one of those are specific, and I gave you an example of a subdivision in South Florida where the developer tried to retain the mineral rights that was under there. And that was because of a new technology that we have, and it's called directional boring, to where they can actually bore down half a mile away and then go up under your property and take oil out from under it. But the state here said that was not going to be correct, and they didn't allow them to do that. And so in that particular situation, they own from the center of the earth all the way up in the air.
That's good to know. Now, how about all the way up in the air? Can I shoot at drones flying over my house?
You know, I'd love to do that too, but I don't think it's safe to do that because you don't know where the bullet's going to land. I don't
That's
think
the only reason.
Yeah, that'd be the only reason. I don't think it's against the law to shoot a drone, but I think it would be a discharge of a firearm would be a problem.
Well, it's good to know I own the dirt and the air above. Alan Graham, always an interesting conversation, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Don. Enjoyed it.
On titles and title insurance and your rights. And we'll see you next week, and we'll be right back.